Hello, I am Yuvraj Singh Rana of BTech Final Year Section C. I am here to deliver my seminar report presentation, of which the topic is serverless computing. So let's start with what serverless computing is. Serverless computing can be defined in several ways. Serverless computing is considered as a new generation of platform as a service known as PaaS. In this case, the cloud service provider takes care of the receiving client request and responds to them simultaneously, monitoring operations such as scheduling tasks and planning capacity. Thus, developers have no need to think about the server and infrastructure issues and can entirely concentrate on the writing software codes. Serverless computing is also sometimes known as function as a service or event based service programming, as it uses function as deployment unit. Serverless computing is a method of providing backend service as a used basis. Serverless provider allows user to write and deploy code without hassle of worrying about the underlying infrastructure. Here in this table, serverless computing is defined as the several cloud services, for example, infrastructure as a service, PaaS, programming as a service, and SaaS, server as a service. Cloud computing in IaaS, infrastructure as a service, virtualization, software defined network, software defined centers, and cloud storage. In terms of PaaS, it is cloud based stimulation, communication, development of cloud services, for example, Google App Engine, Windows, Azure, and Amazon. In terms of SaaS, it is cloud communication apps, cloud storage apps, etc. Mobile technologies can be defined in terms of serverless computing as in infrastructure software defined radio networks, in PaaS, SMS API, mobile applications, and much more. In SaaS, mobile commerce apps, payment apps, etc. Internet of Things in IoT, it is used as software defined wireless networks, smart environments, API for accessing data in terms of PaaS, and API for context aware applications, API for wearable computing applications. In SaaS, software for smart device management. In big data, it is in terms of IaaS, in terms of environment for Hadoop projects. Hadoop project is basically Google based. Environment for Mongo DB projects, another application of infrastructure. PaaS, in that map reduce API, and in SaaS, data analysis and visualization, etc. Why serverless computing is so important? Digital transformation has accelerated business models. New services and products are created to accelerate the speed. New digital transformation environment has created an easy entry path for serverless computing. The third important factor of this implies as serverless computing is continuous integration. CI helps businesses to react economic and business needs in an agile manner. Developer prefer infrastructure that can be coped with frequent but small changes that can be at the disposal, be self-managed or scalable, as same as the cloud. History of serverless computing as it evolved with time. The process to digital, thus microservices architecture emerged as a key method of providing serverless deployment or with flexibility and other benefits such as the ability of to deliver applications to wrap up speed, using infrastructure as a service and platform as a service environment. The concept of this idea was to break the monolithic application into smaller services which its own business logic. The basic idea of serverless computing is to reduce the main functioning of the cloud into small fringes of tasks as done in the very basic form of IT. Serverless computing can be called as the next generation of cloud for following reasons. Serverless computing is an environment of cloud computing models from infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, function as a service, with IaaS abstract underlaying the infrastructure to provide virtual machines for ready consumptions, and for PaaS abstracts the entire operating system and the middleware layer to provide the application deployment platform. And in the terms of FAS, goes one step further in terms of abstraction of entire programming runtime to provide options to readily deploy a piece of code and execute without worrying about its deployment. Serverless computing as a function as a service provides entirely readily deploy a piece of code without worrying about its deployment. Serverless framework is very easy to operate. The serverless framework is a free and open source web framework written using Node.js. Serverless is the first framework deployment for building application on AWS Lambda, a serverless computing platform provided by Amazon as part of Amazon Web Services. A serverless app can simply be a couple of Lambda functions to accomplish some tasks, or an entire backend composed of 100 Lambda functions. Serverless supports all runtime offers offered within the cloud provider chosen. Serverless runtime. Serverless vendor offers computer runtimes, also known as function as a service, which executes application logic but do not store data. Serverless computing mainly emphasis on the function as a service platforms. With serverless function as a service, there is a necessity of databases which are required to run the serverless software and hardware, the storage of its memories and various types of data that it stores. So serverless databases are emerged in last few years. These systems extend to several serverless executed model to the RDMS. It is very similar to the basic DBMS of the computer system and the relational database management system. Architecture of the serverless computing is a very crucial point to discuss. Serverless computing might seem a lot more attractive over the traditional infrastructure consumption and the computational models. Not all applications or services can be delivered in a serverless model. It is believed that the future enterprise IT landscape will be hybrid landscape. So here are certain architecture considerations that need to be kept in mind while architecture serverless computing systems are discussed, such as some best practices that can be kept in mind while architectural serverless systems. De- Develop stateless single purpose functions. Design push based event driven patterns. Create powerful front ends. The very building blocks of serverless computing. The first and most important feature of serverless computing is that the businesses do not buy, rent, or provision serverless to runtime their code. It is very convenient now, so that they have to purchase it as the cloud works, pay as you need. It is the cloud service provider responsible for managing serverless computing. The service provided is responsible for security. The environment scales and expands according to the requirement. As I said, pay as you need. It offers convenience and flexibility for pay as you go fee structure. The concept is centered on product or developer. The main advantages of serverless computing are as follows: reduce cloud cost, reduce development cost, elasticity, scalability, less responsibilities for developers, no runtime services 24 into 7, focuses on core products, multi language support, quick deployment and updates. Anyone can use it without a lot of hassle. Code can run closer to end user, less responsibilities for developers, improve management of resources and all. Since it is a new service provided by the cloud, as earlier cloud was very complicated for many of us to use, so there are some main challenges that follows, such as cost of serverless services, execution time limitation, multi-tenancy concerns, resources limited, security concerns, debugging and monitoring, vendor incapability, compassionability, availability of skills, vendor lock-in risk, security concerns, etc. Rest is assured. Thank you.